Today on Becoming More Me, I am joined by Megan Sherer, a somatic trauma practitioner and hypnotherapist known for helping women heal core wounds, shift relationship patterns, and come home to their bodies. Boy, we have so much in common. Megan bridges somatic therapy, nervous system work, attachment healing, and lived integration with a strong emphasis on embodiment and emotional truth. She's also the host of the Well Then podcast, which I had the pleasure of being on recently also, and she's the founder of the self-care space. She leads amazing retreats too, including her somatic healing retreat in Ireland. And if you have ever felt like you've done so much healing and you still find yourself stuck in familiar patterns, bracing for the shoe to drop, or performing healing instead of living healing, this conversation is for you. Megan, welcome to the show. It all starts now. Hey, Megan. Thanks for joining me today. I'm glad you're here.
Hi, Teresa. Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to dive back in with you.
Absolutely. I always love to start with just allowing the audience to get to know who you are outside and beside the work you do and everything else. Tell us a little bit about where you live, who you like to spend your time with, maybe some hobbies or just things you really enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. Where I live is such a funny question because my one of my big good struggles in life has been that my heart feels at home in a lot of different places. So I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, which is where I live right now, hence the trees in the background. Yeah. But I've also spent a good amount of my life in Southern California, in New York, and in Europe. My mom's from Ireland, so
Oh, beautiful.
I've lived over there and typically spend summers there. And I kind of split my time between all the places where all the people I love are, which is wonderful and sometimes a little bit disjointed. But it's actually really nice to be able to have multiple places to call home.
Absolutely. I've always wanted to go to Ireland. You go every
Oh,
year?
every year, every summer, I actually lead a women's retreat there every single summer at the Cliffs of Moher, which is like
Ooh.
one of the most beautiful places you've ever seen. And Ireland is such a magical country. I love it. And I'm so grateful to have my family there.
And I'm sure it would be a beautiful place to explore with your guidance and
Yeah.
in the kind of setting that I'll bet you cultivate for people that come and join you there. That is so cool.
It's pretty life-changing. Some of the ladies who've come over the past few years have gotten like matching tattoos and like gone to each other's weddings and like formed these amazing connections just because it's
Aw.
such a magical experience there.
Yeah. And you got to help facilitate that. That's got to feel really
Yeah.
meaningful.
Yeah, it definitely does.
So you and I both do a lot of work with trauma and things like that. And you do somatic work and such. What's your path to getting into that? What I know there's always a
Oh
story
yeah.
behind the work.
Always a story. And I think like for so many people who ended up in some sort of healing profession, it started for me with my own trauma and
Absolutely.
having to find, paths and modalities that supported me in my journey. And I think I always took a very special interest in healing and personal growth, and that started in understanding the body better. So I was mostly curious about physical healing, a little bit of spirituality. In my teens, I got really into yoga, started teaching yoga in college, got really into nutrition as I was recovering from an eating disorder in my teens, and always had this idea that I wanted to be in some sort of healing, helping profession.
Yeah.
And then right out of college, I got in a pretty traumatic car accident. And
Mm.
that was the thing. That was really the catalyst for me that changed my life. It happened at a time while I was also in a really unhealthy relationship and having to take a look at some patterns in my life and in the way that I was showing up for life that just weren't aligned with my core values and what I who I really wanted to be and believed myself to be. And yeah, that kind of kicked off this dark night of the soul time for a while where I was really struggling after that accident, but it led me down this path to discovering somatic healing, energy work, like all the things. I sought out every possible practice and modality I could because I wanted to feel better. And then I collected the ones along the way that I realized were making a big impact. And that's what ended up shaping the career that I have now as a somatic therapist 15 years later.
I love that. And I had a car accident too earlier in life, and I know that shaped a
Mm.
lot of things for me too. And it really challenges your identity,
Hmm.
right? I know for me, the identity that I had pre-car accident was one of like I was going to be in corporate banking and I had this like career trajectory and it like at this stage I feel like a lot of times I'm able to choose when I want to create identity shifts, but
Hmm.
it was like an identity shift that was kind of made for me
Mm.
and definitely impacted things in a different way. Did you have a similar, or not the same experience, but did it affect you in a similar kind of way?
Absolutely. For me, it was really twofold. So prior to the accident, I was still really focused on creating change in myself and the people that I worked with, primarily through the lens of the physical body. So, like
Okay.
workout, nutrition, fitness, like just
Yep.
that
We
more.
share
So,
that too. That's
yeah.
where things started for me with this work also.
And to be honest, I think that's where a lot of people start their healing and personal growth journeys because it's that first layer of evolution. It's the easiest one to look at and be like, okay, well, this is within my control. I can
Yeah.
change what I eat and I can change how I move and
You can also see the results
exactly. And most
really
of us have
easily.
like aesthetic goals that like we want to look better or feel
Mhm.
better and,
You can watch a
maybe,
number on a scale. You can see a
yep,
measurement change on a bicep or whatever else, and it feels satisfying. Whereas some of the
exactly.
deeper work does not have the same tangible
No, it does
results to
not.
it, even though it shifts things that are way greater than the size of your bicep or the number on a scale.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's kind of a harder sell, if somebody doesn't really need it. But for me, like I hit that point where, oh no, now my emotional, mental, spiritual health is so out of balance that like I need to look at more than just the physical body. So it definitely changed the trajectory of the work that I do. But I think for me, that period of time also was a catalyst for a huge relational shift. It was the start of me taking a look at how I showed up in relational dynamics, not just romantic relationships, but all areas of life, and
Yeah.
looking at the ways that I really had a tendency to fawn and self abandon, and like many women, ending up in patterns of people pleasing, appeasement, and caretaking, and really not having a strong sense of self, which I think is
I don't
also
have any
common.
idea what you're talking about.
Right? I mean, who goes through that? Especially in your 20s, everybody knows exactly who they are
Oh,
and yeah.
it hits.
Oh yeah.
It
Yeah.
definitely hits.
Yeah. So and I'm so grateful that I kind of got shaken up in a way that had me force me to look at these patterns not just in my professional life but in my personal life because the way that I was showing up wasn't sustainable.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and doing good healing work does make so many more things
Mm.
sustainable. What do you think gets like the most misunderstood about healing,
Mm.
especially in like online spaces?
Yeah. Oh, I love this question. I've been kind of going hard on answering this specific question lately because I think that the reason, or the place rather, that a lot of us get stuck in the realm of healing because it's sort of perpetuated in this way online is we kind of get caught in this trap of thinking that like healing is the point. Like we always are seeking the next thing that's wrong with us that we have to fix in order to feel
Mm,
better, in order to feel good enough, in order to be able to have the life that we want.
yeah.
And healing's a wonderful thing. I think we should all go on journeys of exploration of the wounds and parts of ourselves that need tender care and healing. And I see it become all too easy for people to slip into healing as an identity. And
Mhm.
when you live in healing as an identity, you are always going to be unconsciously creating things that you need to heal from.
Yeah.
And it's such a tempting cycle to stay in because just like watching the number on the scale change, it feels like we're in control. Like I'm taking action, I'm doing things, I'm going to therapy, I'm doing the journaling. But if you're not actually expanding your capacity to live your life and have a fuller experience of life and you're just reliant on these healing tools and practices all the time to like stabilize and regulate, we're not really getting anywhere. We're kind of missing the point of being human. And I'm not
Or
surprised.
even the possibility of what if there's actually nothing to fix?
Right. What if there's nothing broken about you or wrong with you? What if the healing is actually just so that you can experience more of yourself,
Yeah. I mean,
not
because
because you're a
when
problem?
healing is the identity, and that identity and personality get all tied up together too,
Hmm.
and then it, it's like if our person, I've had a lot of people that have been triggered by talking about, like, when people come to talk to me about like their own healing journey or whatever, and it's
Mm.
like, okay, well, if you're going to become that person that's going to do that thing, then quite literally your personality will change.
Hmm.
It has to, because
Yep.
there's no way that you can keep thinking the same thoughts, feeling the same feelings, and showing up in the same way and get a different result.
Right.
But the ego gets so like scared of, like, well, my personality, like that must be who I am. I can't
Right.
change who I am, and do this thing. So I guess maybe I can't do the thing, or maybe I'm going to
Hmm.
try to use my conscious brain to try to figure out how to do the thing another way and stay
Yeah.
stuck. So
Yep.
I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that what most people don't acknowledge when they are setting out to achieve a new goal or experience a different variation, a different version of their life, that part of them that has to shift, like you said, I have to think different thoughts and act in different ways. Like it's going to require a different version of me. And I think what people don't realize is that part that's challenging to the ego that you mentioned genuinely registers as like an existential threat. Like
Yeah.
it feels like death. It feels like,
Yep.
wait a minute, if that part of me goes away, then who am I? I don't exist anymore as I've come to know myself. And our brains do not tolerate uncertainty very well.
Yep.
In fact, we are kind of wired to create as much certainty and control and predictability as we possibly can,
Which is
as I
just
know
kind
you
of funny.
know. Yeah, so like change is terrifying to that part of us that likes stability. And if you want to experience something different, that's the work, is to learn to grieve the loss of those parts of old self and let them quote unquote die or evolve or change, whatever word feels okay in your body.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then
Any
that's good to
any
allow that to
tips
happen.
for doing that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's such an easy thing. Just let old parts of you die.
Just take a step and let it happen and just grieve
Yeah.
it. I mean, but
Yeah.
seriously, like, if somebody was actually going through that
Yeah.
and facing that, like, how
Mm.
would you guide them or coach them in that
Yeah.
moment?
For me, there's really a couple very important phases to that process. A lot of my therapeutic work is in the realm of somatic parts work,
Hmm.
and I find it very, very important and beneficial to acknowledge, really witness, and honor the job and the role that those parts of us played to get us to where we are. Like the part of
Absolutely.
you that kept you safe up until now
Yeah.
by being small, by being less visible, by, having less of a voice, whatever
Sure.
had to happen to keep you safe in the past, like
Yeah.
that's a brilliant part that did such a wonderful job for you and like probably developed in childhood. And what a sweet little thing for like a 7-year-old part of us to
Yeah.
do and carry that big job. Oftentimes, when we create that tender witnessing for those younger parts, so they feel seen, it doesn't feel like we're admonishing them and saying like you're bad, you have to go away because
No.
you're wrong. It's like, oh, thank you for doing this job and you don't have to do it anymore. Let's give you
Yep.
a new job. Like let's get excited about this new thing that we can create together, and like you can be a part of this, but we're not going to do it the old way anymore. And oftentimes our parts, our inner child, younger parts, wounded parts, will often get on board with that if there's this sense of internal coherence and
Right.
support.
Like a safe upgrade into the new
Yes.
world.
Yeah, exactly. So I find that to be very helpful. Um, and then like this one's simple, but beginning to take creative action from from the perspective of the new place, the new version of you, the new identity.
Mm-hmm.
in a way that feels like playful and fun. Like, does that version of you, that version of your identity, like paint every day or sing while she's cooking dinner? Like, what's something different that is fun and light and joyful so we can bring in a sense of levity to this change so that it doesn't feel so big and overwhelming all the time?
Yeah, I think, bringing in the body as part of that truth telling,
Hmm.
part of the story is important too.
Yeah.
Like where do you feel it in your body when like you're being this like version of you instead of like you?
Hmm.
Do you ever work with that
Yeah.
like kind of and
Oh,
how?
yeah. I work primarily with the body as the kind of focal point for this work. Actually, because I started my own journey of exploration and healing in the realm of yoga and in the
Mhm.
realm of physical embodied
Yeah.
practice, I developed a really deep reverence for what moving the body does for us. Like, I
Mhm.
used to be a dancer and a gymnast, and being able to express energy and emotion and like create art through your body, I think is such a beautiful human thing that we get to do. And so eventually, years later, when I had gone through all the other layers of like mental, emotional, spiritual healing, and then finally came back to the body and realized, oh, yeah, the body actually is like the portal for all of it. It's where we experience life. It's where we feel sensation.
Mhm.
It's where our sense of self is actually experienced. It's not just a cognitive
Yeah.
mental thing. And I personally believe that our bodies are the most spiritual things about us. I think
Yeah.
so many spiritual practices aim to like transcend the body, leave the body, dismiss like the pain and the density and the heaviness of being human. But I really see our bodies as like one and the same with nature, and like it's just all kind of made up of the same stuff.
Yes.
And if we want to access more of life, we have to do that through the body. So
Which
whether
is
that's
difficult when like so many women
Mhm.
tend to have a belief, known or unknown, that like the body's the enemy, or
Yeah.
that we're somehow at war with our body,
Oh,
or
yeah.
it, or that our body might even be um, sabotaging us.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's really easy to adopt that belief because we're told, like from day one, that what we look like is the most important thing about us, and that most of us don't fit the mold of what we should look like, right? So that's wound number one. And
Hmm.
yeah, it's exhausting. Whether you're getting that message from your household, your parents, from the media, from friends at school, now social media. God, kids these days, that must be so hard.
Mm.
But there's always that message of like not enoughness, and then we grow as young girls into young women, and we learn that there is this inherent danger in being in a female body, and that we have to kind of always be guarded and on the lookout for potential harm and danger. And we get really confusing narratives and messages about our sexuality and about pleasure and like what's okay for us to feel and express and what's not.
Hmm.
There's so much confusing conditioning that most of us internalize by a really young age. So,
Yeah, like an age when we were not equipped to question it.
no, not at all. It's just the way things are. And then by the time we do question it, a lot of it has been deeply internalized. So it's not just a mental thought pattern anymore, it's a physical response in the body.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of grief, pain, and shame to unpack there. So I don't ever want to diminish the work that it takes to come back home and get back into your body, especially if you've had a lived experience of any sort of trauma. Bodily trauma can make it so hard to be in the body. I mean, not just from the car accident, but I've experienced injury, physical pain, illness, sexual trauma, like any number of things that have made it hard to be in my body, made it a not a
Yeah, and
comfortable
then that
place to
can
be.
kind of turn numbness into a baseline.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
then
and
we're
it
very
is.
disconnected. So it's like from where you stand, like how would you help somebody rebuild their identity when that is the baseline, when they have disconnected and they are numb, like as far from the
Yeah.
body?
Yeah, and I will say that is the baseline for most people these days, just because of the nature of the world that we live in. Everything is so fast paced and overstimulating, and gosh, like news headlines, it's overwhelming. There's a lot of
Yes.
intensity and numbness. It can feel like the safest baseline to hang
Mhm.
out in right now. So most people are there, and I think the first thing is just acknowledging that there are plenty of reasons that your brain and body decided numb was the safest place to be. But one thing I always start with and encourage and remind in my somatic practice, especially when there's numbness, is that numbness is information too.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we'll try to like do a somatic practice or get in the body, and then the feedback will be, I don't feel anything. I can't feel that, right? Like there's numbness there or there's nothing there. And that is sensation in its own way, too. It's information that's telling us that part of the body hasn't historically felt safe to inhabit. There's been enough guarding and armoring there that we've learned that it hasn't felt safe to feel that sensation. And that doesn't mean that we can't ever come back into harmony with that part of the body, but just like we acknowledged with the parts work analogy earlier on, we need to acknowledge that that part of us, that part of our body was doing a protective job, like trying to keep us from feeling an intense pain, a pain that we
Yeah.
probably didn't have the capacity to be with or manage at the time. And when we can acknowledge that, it's almost like softening the bodyguards.
Mm.
Like you get like the secret password. It's like, I'm not here to make this worse. I understand the job you're doing. It makes sense. And can we work together so that you don't have to hold this all alone to
Yeah.
resolve this pain?
Yeah. So we have to work like relationally with our own parts.
Hmm.
And then there's the other layer of like actual like relationships with other people
Hmm.
that comes into the healing dynamic too. And I know a lot of people when we're thinking about like romantic relationships and stuff, will say that they like keep choosing the same kind of person, different body or something's a little bit
Oh,
different.
yeah.
But what do you notice there when people have those kind of patterns? Have you joined the Becoming More Me community over on School yet? It is one of the fastest growing distraction free platforms for learning and connection. And it's where the magic's happening for the Becoming More Me community as well. Inside, you will find a high vibe circle of heart centered, ambitious entrepreneurs and professionals doing deep work to become who they truly feel called to be in life, in business, in love, health, and wealth, and doing it in ways that feel aligned, authentic, and full of pleasure. The community is packed with tons of valuable resources too that you can start using right away, as well as guidance to find the ones that are going to help you so that you don't need to waste time. We're talking tools, trainings, and practices to support your growth, all for free. Plus, you can find info on working with me more deeply, whether it's through one-on-one coaching, small group experiences, or the Becoming More Me with EFT program, as well as information on upcoming workshops and other events. To join, head over to school.com/discovery. That's SKOOL.com/discovery. Type in my name, Teresa Lear Levine, and you will find the Becoming More Me community right there. Click on it to join. I can't wait to welcome you to the community.
Yeah, it's this kind of interesting catch-22 because when we're continuously repeating or attracting the same kinds of patterns in our romantic relationships, whether it's I keep attracting the emotionally unavailable guy, the avoidant guy, the one who's not choosing me,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe I always attract really hot and cold, intense, kind of like toxic dynamic, whatever it is, first of all, let's acknowledge that it comes from familiarity.
Yep.
Like you learned something in your attachment patterning that is being reflected in this relationship. It reminds you of how a parent treated you or how your parents treated each other. Like more often than not, that's where it does stem from.
Yep.
And we've got to spend some time there. And a lot of our attachment patterning is pre-verbal, and it's not something that it can always like consciously be named. So that's where somatic work does become really powerful, is we can get the felt sense of what it felt like to be rejected or abandoned or separated, to not get the love that we needed, and to first meet those parts of the body really tenderly and understand, like, how does my nervous system react when I go back into that pattern, when I'm presented with that guy who's not choosing me? How do I feel those parts of me light up and go, oh, this is familiar. What if I could just get
Yeah.
him to choose me? Then I'll feel loved. Then it'll finally feel better. So we have to kind of like clock what's happening there.
Which
And
then it
then,
brings in things like emotional signals and stuff like that. Like, what's a practical way to start kind of listening to that without getting overwhelmed?
I mean, it really just comes from learning to listen to your body on a regular basis. Like, there's such a tendency to want to fix an emotion, to fix a sensation that we don't like. Again, going back to this kind of like healing narrative, there's a lot of conversation around like emotional regulation and like
Sure.
needing to essentially, it translates to like control and suppress what you're feeling because what you're feeling is bad. In somatic work, we actually want to come into relationship with all of our emotions as good information. Like, if I'm feeling angry, that's showing me where my boundaries are. If I'm
Yeah.
not letting myself feel angry, then I don't get to have a boundary. If I am feeling heavy grief, that is showing me where something deeply mattered to me or someone deeply mattered to me. And if I'm not letting myself feel that grief, I'm not letting myself feel the love either. And so we want to kind of titrate our ability to have greater capacity to feel and name our feelings and realize that we can be with them. We can actually hold them ourselves. We don't need to outsource that job to somebody else to make our emotions go away or make them feel better. That's a lot of what's happening in romantic relationships, unconscious ones in particular, is we're essentially outsourcing the job of emotional regulation to a partner. Every time we feel uncomfortable, we want them to make it feel better, which sounds like a sweet, lovely, romantic thought until we realize that we can't depend on another person to process, feel, express, and regulate all our emotions for us. We can co regulate with another loving body in the room with us, whether it's a partner or a therapist or a friend, whoever. But we have to learn and trust ourselves to be with our own emotions first, access the wisdom from them so that then I can come to my partner and say, this is how I felt when this happened, and this is where this reaction came from, and here's what I really need, right? That's where we can actually come closer and have true vulnerability rather than just like projecting and dumping our wounds onto somebody else, which is what most people are doing.
That's so important. And you've created like a whole method. I think it's called the love alignment method.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that, and then I have some questions.
Yeah. Um, this method really came about when I realized that no matter what um, lens or angle somebody came to me to work through and address, whether it was body image and health concerns, or I'm feeling stuck in my career, or a relationship pattern directly, it really all came back to a lot of the same themes and a lot of the core attachment wounding, which for me, at least in the work that I've done, I really see going hand in hand with our sense of identity. Like what we learned about how available or unavailable love is to us and what we have to do to earn it or perform for it or to guard ourselves against getting hurt by it, that really translates to like what we believe to be true about ourselves and the identity that we live within and how we show up in the world. And for most people, that's like the sticking point, right? Like that's the hinge upon which we feel like all these old patterns keep repeating, and I'm having a hard time getting to what I want, and I'm not sure why. I'm aware of the patterns, and like still nothing's changing. And
That always
it
feels like it feels like
really,
it's like the talk therapy loop for me.
yeah,
Like that's what I feel like I see
yeah.
over and over again. Is people that come and it's like, oh, they're
It's like I'm
tired
talking about
from
it. Yeah.
talking about it, and it's like, well, if that was gonna fix it, why are you still carrying the same problem around still?
Exactly.
Like it's just the conscious mind can't fix
It
the
can't
subconscious
fix it.
problems or the issues.
Right. And I think that people don't realize that talk therapy is like the entry point. Like it's great
It
to be
is
able to identify and build awareness and talk
a
about
lot
things
of
that we
awareness.
once felt like we couldn't. Like
Yeah. You
step
usually end
one,
up
you
feeling
shine
like
a light on it.
more frustrated though when you shine a light on something. You're
Yes.
now blatantly aware of it, and you're as stuck as you were before you had the
Yes.
spotlight on it. So it usually does bring this like intense level of frustration or just resistance and
Yeah.
irritation for people because it's like, what do I
Because we're
do now?
saying, here's the problem, but we're not answering the question, now what? Now what
Yeah.
do I do that I see this problem?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a frustrating place to be. It's disempowering.
Right. So like what does alignment mean in a
Hmm.
nerve in the nervous system sense when you're
Yeah.
talking about like love alignment and that kind of stuff?
Yes. So for me, I really see the word alignment going hand in hand with integrity, like integrity in our sense of
Mhm.
self, and alignment with our core values.
Hey, quick pause to let you in on something you might not know. You know, you can book a totally free, no pressure 15-minute insight call with me. Yep, just you and me chatting about the real life stuff that's feeling heavy or unclear or stuck in your world right now. Whether that's in your business, your body, your relationships, your energy, all of the above, maybe. We'll explore what's really going on beneath the surface, and I will share a few personalized insights to help you start moving towards the outcomes you truly desire and get out of your own way with clarity, peace, momentum, and abundance. Just go to gamechangingconversation.com and grab a time that works for you. I can't wait to connect with you and hold space for your next breakthrough. All right, let's get back to the episode. Yeah.
So when we can do the work of identifying what matters to me, like who am I, this person, Megan, and what can I identify is most important to me in the life that I want to live for myself? What do I value? What do I want to create more of? How do I want to show up? Then, when I can audit, what am I actually doing in my life and in my relationships? How am I spending my time? Am I prioritizing those values? Am I making choices that are in alignment and in integrity with those values? Or am I not? Am I making choices that sacrifice my authenticity in order to get love and belonging, which is what most of us are doing? Like we sacrifice our own needs or abandon and neglect them, or we just don't even identify them in the first place in order to make a relationship work. We sacrifice our well being in the workplace to make sure that our boss is happy with us. We sacrifice our health to, overgive to our kids, to our friends, our communities, everybody in our life. And then we realize why we don't feel great, why we don't feel like ourselves, why we feel lost, why we feel foggy. And we're doing all these things consciously or unconsciously in an attempt to feel love and belonging. Like at the end of the day, that's what most of us want, is to feel like we belong, to feel like we are loved and like we are accepted. And maybe we never got that in the ways we should have growing up as kids. So that pattern is even more amplified because we're really hungry for it. What happens when instead we can honor the job those parts have been doing, but learn to make choices that are aligned with our values and our boundaries and our standards and like the version of us that we really want to be, we find that we get more access to the love and belonging that we want from the people who can actually give it to us.
Yeah.
But most importantly, that we're giving that to ourselves first, so that we're not this like hungry ghost trying to go chase it from other people.
Mm-hmm.
We are going into the world with more of a full cup. So, yeah, that's kind of what the method explores.
I think that's still a tough thing for so many women because they can understand, again, conscious level, like, I know I'm supposed to love myself first, or, that it's going to be really tough to actually truly love someone else if I don't. And they still resist it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's, again, multi kind of fold there. One is because we are sold this like really seductive conditioning growing up that there's this person out there who can save us and give us everything that we've always wanted and make us feel
Complete us.
loved. Yeah, complete us. Like that we have another half and that we are not complete until we meet them. And so, of course, if that were true, we would do whatever it took to go find that person, get them to choose us, get them to love us. And what most people, especially women, don't realize is that in doing that, you are choosing a person from a wound, from the place of incompleteness and lack of wholeness. And you're never going to feel whole if you are choosing a relationship from that place of scarcity and lack. So that's part of it, is acknowledging the conditioning that we've inherited of like the romanticization of romantic love and pedestalization of it. And it's also very, very alluring to have somebody else be more responsible for our lives than we are. Like, if it's not my job to love myself, if it's your job to love me, I don't know, that feels like a little bit, nicer than I don't have
Weight
to
off
do
the
the heavy.
shoulders.
Yeah, it's your job to love me no matter what, love me unconditionally. I don't have to do
And you
the
can get
heavy,
upset with it.
messy
You can get upset
work.
with another person for not doing it well.
Yeah. If you get
But
upset with
why don't we get
yourself,
upset
that's
with
like
ourselves?
shameful and painful and like, oh, it's so hard to sit with the discomfort of looking at yourself in the mirror and not liking what you see and having to really be with that discomfort and pain. Like, it's not fun. I'd rather just like give my power away and like have somebody else love me. So yeah, of course we do that, but I know we're laughing here because we both know the real liberation comes from doing the messy work,
Yeah.
learning to love yourself and not outsourcing that very important power.
Yeah, absolutely. So, whether it has to do with something that increases self love or something that somebody could use before they send a reactive text or try to people please or just go and disappear, do you have any good, like, short, I don't know, like a 60-second practice or anything that you love that's helpful to just kind of like bring you back into your body and create
Mm.
a different place to make a choice from?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I want to give like one specific tool, but I am generally more of a fan of like meeting the moment. So if we're taking the example of like, I'm feeling reactive and I'm going to send a reactive text or feeling anxious about something, that tells me there's this activation, anxious energy in the body. There's fear there somewhere. And if we just try to like calm that down and breathe through it, we're actually missing something valuable in the moment, like an acknowledgement of, oh, there's this activation in my body of
Right.
something feeling big. And rather
Hmm.
than dismissing that, what if I was actually to meet that bigness and like match it
Yeah,
for a second? And
I
so
totally
the
agree.
60-second practice there might be like shaking out my arms, jumping up and down, and like fluttering my lips with some big exhales, like moving
Mm.
that energy through rather than just trying to regulate it and calm it down.
Yeah, there's major value to our activation energy, whether it's anger or
Yeah.
frustration or whatever. Like there's
Oh,
messages there that are
yeah.
important. I feel like so many people rush to like, oh, I just need to find a way to calm myself,
Right. Need to
and
feel
then everything will be
better.
better. But
Hmm.
sometimes that is just disguising suppression.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Anytime we're just trying to like rush to calm, we are suppressing and trying to control rather than allowing our emotional experience to flow and possibly show us something. Like, yeah, if it's anger, going and pushing your hands against a wall and like feeling a sense of, I'm allowed to have a boundary here so that your body trusts that you're listening to it. And
Hmm.
then you can get clear on like, okay, what's the thing that actually matters? Like, now that I've let this emotion
Yeah.
take up space and I can trust myself to hold it, now I might be able to have more clarity about what I need to ask my partner for or the
Yeah.
boundary that I need to set with my boss and say like, "Hey, that's not going to work for me."
Yeah. Because you essentially move yourself from survival into aliveness.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly
And
right.
just yeah, it's a little easier to move forward from there. I love that. I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. You mentioned your retreats at the beginning. I'd love to touch on
Mm.
that before we wrap things up because I feel like retreats really can create very fast transformation and deep
Yes.
transformation. What do you think makes the retreat environment so powerful for somatic healing?
Mm. I think it's a combination of magic, but I do think one of the most potent things about it is the identity piece. When you are at home in your familiar surroundings, your familiar environment, the place that you've come to know yourself and the way that you get up every morning and make your coffee, the way that you always do, like we're sort of locked into that version of our identity. There's a little bit more stickiness around it because there's more scaffolding holding that version of us in place versus when we fly halfway across the world or just to another state even, and we're in another setting and we've committed to taking out time for ourselves. That is an action in and of itself that signals, oh, this identity, this version of me believes that I matter, that my rest matters, that my play matters, what I want, what I desire really matters. So there's already that sense of empowerment and having made a choice for yourself, being in a new environment where you can imagine new possibilities, being surrounded by other women who are also doing that imagining of new possibilities and showing up for themselves in a powerful way. So there's like social proof in it. And I think all of that combination of things allows us to just drop our guard a little bit more and be a bit more courageous with our willingness to show up in our body, to move energy in a new way, to feel something new, to wonder and ideate something new. And that happens on every retreat I've ever been a part of. It's just such a wonderful thing when women can get out, or any people in general, but I lead women's retreats, when they can get out of their habitual patterns and routines and drop into that space with one another and feel that connection and community. And then there's like the secret sauce of where the retreat is, what the specific theme is. Like each one has its own kind of flavor that comes out. But yeah, I think the basic foundation of it is like the opportunity for identity shift.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this. I love this conversation. Thank you so much for being here and sharing so much of your wisdom with all of us today.
Oh my gosh, of course. I could talk about this for days on end. I love it.
Me too. Me too. Where can people find you if they want to learn more or go to one of your awesome retreats?
Yeah. The best places to keep in touch are I'm all over social media. My Instagram and my website are both my full name. Megan Sherer is my Instagram and megansherer.com is my website. I do also create content on TikTok, Substack, YouTube, all the places that you might want to learn. I have a podcast as well, which you came on. It's called Well Then. So whatever format people like learning in, I've probably got it out there so they can tap into more resources. And perfect. I lead a couple of retreats a year. I lead a few women's group programs every year. And then I also do have a one-on-one practice. So anybody who's curious to dive deeper into the realm of somatic work, parts work, hypnotherapy, all the things, I am available if you want to reach out on those platforms.
I love it. Thank you. We'll make sure all that ends up in the show notes for anyone who's driving or needs to come back to it later. And for all of you listening today, I know you have so many choices when it comes to the podcast that you listen to. So thank you for choosing Becoming More Me. Thanks for spending some of your precious time with me today. If you loved this episode, please leave a review or simply share it with someone else who would get great benefit from it too. If you share on social media, please tag me so I can personally connect and thank you. Until next time, keep taking bold and brave steps towards becoming more of who you want to be in this world. You are capable, you are worthy, and you are enough. And if your inner critic is still trying to argue with those facts, hit me up. We've got work to do.